UAE and Visma beefing during positioning battles. Did Intermarché choose the right sprinter? Van der Poel having an ill-timed mechanical. This was the first sprint stage of the Tour de France, 231 kilometers long, a true transition stage from Piacenza to Turin, going near to the border of the French side of the Alps today. And as you can see, it's a sprint stage. Nothing too much of note. Happy days for Pedersen. Maybe a bit of nervousness for the GC teams. Pogacar probably going to give away the yellow jersey. Richard Carapaz could take it if he finished like 10 stage positions ahead of Pogacar. And because there's so many sprint teams here, because it's not even the weekend stage, everyone decided to sit in the peloton. No one even went in the TV exposure breakaway. Groenewegen had some new glasses on, which he didn't actually wear for the finish. The UNOX boys who got in the break actually sat up then and got rejoined by the peloton, and so Alpecin, Trek, and later Jayco Alula just started pacing anyway so that we could get the stage over with. To the first intermediate sprint. Bit of pace about the race now. Demar getting the lead out from Arkea, B&B Hotels, but Philipsen actually jumps a bit late and from a bit deep, and he and Mads Pedersen, they're the two favourites of that competition. It should be Philipsen or Pedersen winning that. And Pedersen's got a real fighting chance. Could Carapaz, though, go into yellow, which would be huge for EF Education? Easy post. On the few climbs that we did have, as you can see, they're short. They're not that steep. The sprinters teams came to the front and blocked it up a little bit. Intermarché for Teusen at this point, and Arkea for Demar, as I said. They don't climb so well, but no one was trying anything anyway. Grelier went up, and that created a bit of order, actually, because it meant that a real chase had to happen. UAE and Visma, though, with under an hour left, they start to move up into the first 20 wheels of the peloton behind the three sprinters teams that had taken it up all day. And then the roundabouts begin. Now, it's a straight from 10Ks to go to 5Ks to go. The 3-kilometer rule got moved to 5Ks to go, but picking the right side of the roundabout is key. Or you could just stay out of it, like Remco and Soudal Quickstep did today. I'll show you that in the overhead. Whereas Visma and UAE, here it starts. Soler wanting Benoit to not be right in the pocket, I think, of Pogacar and to move up next to Sivakov. But then Benoit saying, well, why don't you go over to where your teammate is instead of trying to have two trains? Both of them not too happy with each other. Vingegaard's there behind Tratnik. Eventually, because, I don't know, Sivakov wasn't going quick enough, he lets himself get rolled over by Dillier, which is not very helpful for either of their courses. Adam Yates and Pidcock, Yates is like, what are these guys all on about? Why don't you just sit back here and you don't have all the bother and fuss and stress? And you know what? He's kind of right. Although he did have a big crash in a sprint stage, or before her feet actually, and a concussion earlier in the year. So he stays at the back like his brother, and Pidcock and Remco did as well. Next big roundabout. Tratnik with Vingegaard goes on the right-hand side of the train, UAE go on the left-hand side. And as you can see, that is not a perfectly symmetrical roundabout, although maybe it is, and it's just like an uneven circle, or the exit is. Anyway, the right side was way quicker. And so UAE have lost about 15 positions on the left-hand side, and Jan Tratnik decides to do something that he's been trying to do for probably the last 10 kilometers, which is move over to the left-hand side of the road. And so with Vingegaard in his wheel, he moves over to the left, but he doesn't have the rest of the Visma riders with him. And so Alpecin, EF, and Israel, they're all kind of normally riding in a line on the right-hand side of the road. And then Sivakov's complaining, saying we were on the left, and then Tratnik saying, well, we moved over, and then eventually UAE just go back to the left-hand side of the road anyway. They were quite good, actually, in positioning with Pollitt well and Sivakov and Soler. And Kelderman and Pollitt, they seem to calm things down, cooler heads prevail, and it all gets in a line. But you can see, while those two teams were stressing, maybe unnecessarily, Quickstep, they're at the back here with Remco, Roglic with Bora, Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe, they're at the back chilling. Just chilling at the back. That was obviously their decision. They decided not to get amongst it. And, well, they didn't spend any energy. They didn't get caught in any crashes. So that decision was kind of vindicated. But it can go wrong. Even for Soudal Quickstep, you see Casper Pedersen goes down. I don't know how close to Remco it was. Alpecin de Koenig with the GC team still fighting there on the right-hand side, not hitting the front. They never usually hit the front too early. Seemed to look like Van Aert was going for the sprint, and indeed he was going to try and piggyback off that Alpecin de Koenig train and take the wheel of Jasper Philipsen. But 7.5 Ks to go, 2.5 Ks to the 5-kilometer salvation zone, and Mathieu van der Poel has a mechanical. He's not able to come back into the race. He's the pivotal, crucial final man for Jasper Philipsen, as we saw on occasion last year. And 5Ks to go, it seemed to work. Like, all the GC teams just went to the back, and then the sprinters teams took over. Although, one of those sprinters teams today is EF Education EasyPost. They tried to go for Carapaz in the sprint for stage placements. Even their sprinter Vandenberg went for him to try and take the yellow jersey off Pogacar for a day. And then there's a big crash. What everyone was fearing, high-speed sprint crash. We see riders looking back, Laporte's looking back. That means Van Aert's either in it or not far away from it. We see Ineos jerseys, Demar's jersey, and Astana jerseys. So Cavendish, Philipsen, Van Aert, and maybe a few others out of the sprint. And it actually ends up being a very small group going to the sprint, very similar to Stage 3 in 2021, where Merlier won the sprint after there were some crashes and splits, and Intermarché got the most riders. Sturven's leading out Mads Pedersen for Little Trek. The Turnesson's going to be the last man, it looks like, for Herben Thijssen. That was who they were going to go for, Intermarché. He's their pure sprinter, and in a flat stage, on a rainy day in Belgium, he maybe is, but you see, Biniam Girmay is positioned on the wheel of, I think, Reinders, with Groenewegen there as well. He's lurking at the back, not going for the lead out, and he's going to go for his own sprint. And that ends up being a very prudent decision, regardless of the final result, because Thijssen gets left on the front too early. He gets washed back. Binny chooses the correct line on the left-hand side. Sturven starts launching it on the left, but Pedersen's having to spend a bullet in the wind already. And so Binny and De Lee get the perfect run into the wheel of Sturven, whilst Pedersen has to he doesn't even really get into Sturven's wheel ever. He starts sprinting, Binny comes out of the wheel of Sturven, Pedersen waves but doesn't go all the way to the barriers and gets beaten by Biniam Girmay. Huge win for him. Look who's 14th, Richard Carapaz taking what is the yellow jersey, Thijssen celebrating behind, which was really, really nice to see, and it ended up being correct, letting the guys do their own sprints. I'm not sure it was the original plan, but Binny, what a win for him. The disappointment in the Giro d'Italia when he crashed out, when he looked like he had his fastest legs ever actually in the bunch sprints, and in a hectic stage, the first pure bunch sprint of this Tour de France takes the W. Fantastic to see. We have DSM, Arkea, and now Intermarché getting big wins ahead of Gaviria, De Lee, Pedersen, Groenewegen, Bauhaus, Jacobsen, Ballerini, Bennett, Coquard. Here's what Biniam had to say after the stage and how much it meant to him.
Since I started cycling, Tour de France was, I'm never dreaming to be part of Tour de France, but now, I can't believe it. To win in Tour de France, second year in the big bunch sprint, for me was unbelievable. I just want to say thank you to my family, my wife, all the Eritrean and African. We must be proud. Now we are really part of the big races, and then we success a lot of victories. So now it's our moment, it's our time.